what are some ways that you have been growing your audience? Because the follow-up question is going to be, the big question that everybody wants to know: how do I actually translate my
Yeah.
dream into, money, into finances? And it all starts with audience, right? And so, how have you grown your audience to a place where, where you've been able to entertain the thought of, here's how I translate that into money? And we'll get to that part, but I really want to know your answer to this question.
Yeah, so to answer the question, how have I grown my audience? Honestly, it's kind of counterintuitive, although it makes sense now that I've done it. But
Mm-hmm.
I've grown my audience by narrowing my focus.
Mm.
So at first, I really thought like I had to be everywhere, talk about everything to grow an audience. But that's the key thing that I've learned, is that the more clear I can get on exactly who my target audience is, which I know this is something you guys, Mike Kim, talked about in last doc talk too. But the more successful I become. So at first, like if you looked at my blog, a year ago, you would have seen probably, I don't know, 10 different post categories.
Mm-hmm.
My about page was like, oh, I'm this, and this, and I write on all these things. And if you are looking for something, I guarantee I have it. I didn't use those exact words, but that was kind of the mentality I had.
Yeah.
As I was, John Acuff calls this the vanilla trap. Trying to please everybody, and so you end up being vanilla, which everyone thinks is okay, but no one's like crazy about vanilla. Yeah. So I've increasingly I've narrowed my focus to more and more just talking to entrepreneurs. Now I use the word entrepreneur, and to me, like, the definition of that is actually much more narrow than like the actual word entrepreneur, in that I'm talking to people who want to grow an online platform, an online business, who are usually at the beginning stages of that. And I've had a lot of success. And the other thing that I've narrowed my focus not only in what I present, but also in what I do.
Mm-hmm.
Because I really, are you familiar with StrengthsFinders 2.0?
I know what it is. I've never gone through it. Go ahead and share a little bit.
Yeah, totally should. So it's fantastic. So I went through that and found that my top 5 strengths are strategic, followed by individualization, and then achiever, and then belief and responsibility. So I'm strategic. That's naturally the way I process things. Is like, I kind of thought everyone thought that way, but I guess I not naturally think in the terms of systems, in terms of checklists. Like, everything just flows naturally in my mind that way. Individualization allows me to take those and apply them to specific situations.
Mm-hmm.
So the moment that I realized those were my strengths was about the same time that I took another test that's called the Fascination Advantage Assessment. It's by Sally Hogshead, and
Which
that one,
really great stuff.
Have you done that one before?
I haven't. I did the gosh, I can't remember what it was. She came out with it early in 2014.
Yeah.
I can't remember. I'll put it in the show notes.
Okay, great. Yeah. So so I took her. She came out with a best-selling book recently called I think it's just called How to Fascinate, or How the World Sees You. But it's kind of, StrengthsFinders is about how you perceive the world, and the Fascination Advantage Assessment is really about how the world sees you. So I took it about the same time.
That is it. Yeah.
Okay, that's it. Okay, great. Yeah. So the actual name of the assessment is the Fascination Advantage Assessment, but it's usually presented as like how the world sees you. Yeah. So I'm perceived as the scholar. I'm naturally perceived as someone who speaks with authority. I'm detail oriented, and people assume that I know what I'm talking about, which is kind of dangerous. I have to actually know what I'm talking about, otherwise people assume I do, and problems. But so those combined really allowed me to focus in and find out that strategic individualization really makes me a fantastic coach. And I was focusing on all these other things and not coaching. The minute I refocused on that, I was like, who do I coach? What do I coach? How do I coach? Mm-hmm. Then that became a huge business for me right now. So now, before I was trying to build revenue streams everywhere, and once I refocused on that, I built a successful coaching business, and now I'm expanding. Like, once I narrow that focus, that gives you, once you can make success in that narrow focus, that allows you to expand in other areas. With that same clarity. So that's definitely what I've learned. That's what's been really good for me. Does that resonate with you? Does that sound similar to what you did?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm still going through that a little bit. The struggle is, and I counsel people to do the exact, or not the exact opposite, but to, be intentional about working through the struggle that I'm even having. Like, you feel like when you narrow your focus, you're saying no to a whole bunch of people, and it's like, but I could help them. And so that's really what I'm going through. I've kind of come to the point of knowing exactly where I'm going to spend my attention, and I don't know if this is wise or not, but this is kind of what I've been thinking. I don't have to narrow my focus to just one thing forever. So what I'm kind of thinking is I'm going to narrow my focus on one particular area. In my side hustle, I'm pretty much going to do it to nonprofit and church communicators and speak predominantly to them. However, I'm going to do that, and I'm going to commit to it for probably the next year to 2 years and see how that progresses and how that develops, knowing that I have freedom to recalibrate down the road if things change. And I do have a little bit of freedom because I've got two parts to my business. I have the platform building, which I'm very committed to and generates very little money, and then I have the media firm, the full services media firm, which is generating all of my money. And so I kind of have the freedom to do that a little bit, but that's kind of the approach that I've taken, is like, you know what? I'm going to feel okay about saying this is where I'm going to go, this is where I'm going to head, and what I'm really trying to do is decipher what that message is going to be, what that message is going to look like. But yeah, definitely the big problem for me is, like, I really like leadership. And I like writing about leadership, and I like, counseling people on leadership. But leadership hasn't really, doing that thing hasn't really taken off. There's plenty of people out there who are doing leadership, and I get the whole thing that I'm unique and nobody's going to talk about it the way I can. But at the same time, leadership isn't my biggest strength. It's just something that I really enjoy. My biggest strength is understanding how to manage communications on a shoestring budget in a nonprofit or low-profit scenario. And so that's the area that I'm going to kind of drive down to. But when it comes to this idea of building an audience, I found that rather than waiting around for people to come to me and identify with me, I've decided that I'm going to go out and I'm going to find people who I identify with, and I'm going to find people who are really engaging on social media. And Twitter has been a big part of that. My philosophy on Twitter, John, is I don't follow anybody that doesn't want to interact with me, and I will follow everyone who chooses to interact with me, and that's just the way that it goes. And so what I will do is I will actually go out, I will find people who are I use a program called Mention, and it sends me alerts whenever anybody talks about something that I'm interested in. And I've probably met 10 to 15 people in the last week on Twitter who are talking about nonprofit or church communications. And of those 10, I've probably had, 8 follow me on Twitter, and of those 8, 5 of them have started talking with me. So I've followed those 5. But it's been really interesting to go out and find people, find what they're talking about, find what they're passionate about, and decide, okay, how can I lean into this space, and how can I be useful and be helpful? And I guess I'm talking my way into my answer. I guess my big answer is determining how I can be most helpful and most useful to people, and how my skills can shine in ways that other people wouldn't shine. So I guess that's kind of been the way that I have grown my audience.
Using your unique strengths.
I love my audience. What's that?
I said using your unique strengths. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So see, you were much more eloquent than I was. It took me this really, yellow brick road to get to the same place that you got to, but that's okay, right?
We got to the same place. I think that's the point. I'm pretty sure.
Absolutely.